Go to Nasrec. SABC News political reporter Natasha Phiri is standing by for us. A very good afternoon to you, Natasha. We know lots of delays, lots of strict rules also for the delegates who are going there, including no recording equipment, no alcohol, amongst others. Tell us what's happening.
Definitely, Nzinga, and I'm actually joined by the Secretary of the Electoral Committee, and of course we'll just speak to him before that update that is to take place around about 1 o'clock, where ANC officials will be updating members of the media as to when conference proceedings will actually start. We are seeing a couple of delegates coming into plenary. We heard that announcement where delegates were told to actually go inside the main hall. But before we go into that, let's just speak to Chief Livuwan Matsela, who's the Secretary of the Electoral Committee. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. You've had quite a very busy 2 weeks. Yesterday, the matter was struck off the roll with costs. You've won the court case seemingly against the group that actually took you to court over the ANC list. But it seems as if there are some discrepancies with the Electoral Committee. A case in point would be the issue of Tony Yengeni. You announced that he's been nominated amongst those NEC members, but then you issue him with a letter saying that he's disqualified. Why was he not vetted first?
Let's start first with the issue of the court case by the disgruntled ANC members that they lost dismally at court. That shows that our systems, processes and procedures are above board, and our position that our processes have got credibility has now been confirmed by the court. Now, coming to the issue of the internal vetting process, we rely on the records that we have in the systems of the justice departments and other platforms. So when we get that kind of a record, internally we write to members to inform them that this is what we have as a record. Remember that the expungement of his record was not a public matter. I think many people are even starting to see it for the first time. So it was very important that that record is unearthed and is explained, so that we're able then to qualify him again for standing as an ANC nominee. So there is nothing wrong in terms of our internal procedures, pointing out certain things that must be corrected.
But for clarity, do you actually vet your candidates first?
Yes, we do vet our candidates first. You'll find that the record that comes is not an updated record in the systems. So the first issue of writing to a member to say, this is a record that disqualifies you, we then give you an opportunity to explain and show us if you've got a different record. We take that into account, and then we then take the final decision. In this case, he was then, his disqualification was overturned by the committee itself, which shows that, an outcome of an appeal can either be a yes or no. And in this case, we said, yes, you can go ahead and participate.
Do you not fear that some of these members who actually lost in court would actually maybe raise the issue again on the floor?
No, we are not afraid of what issues are raised in the conference. Everybody in the conference is free to raise any issues that affect them. So if delegates raise certain issues, the conference will debate. Remember, as the Electoral Committee, we are a support structure of the ANC. So this is the delegates of conference. Whatever the decision they take, we'll simply implement. So the fear is not there at all. It's a question of us presenting our rules before the conference. The conference will deliberate on the rules and take any decision, and then we'll simply follow along and implement decisions.
The suspended Secretary General Isma Khashulu was speaking to my colleague Samgele earlier on, and he still maintains that he's still the Secretary General. Can you please confirm to us whether you have served him with a letter of disqualification notifying him that he won't be able to stand for any top 6 position or NEC position?
No, we generally don't want to confirm, whether we have, served.
But it's already out there.
If you have seen it.
Please confirm to us the letter is already out in the public domain.
No, it's true that there is such a letter that says on the basis that is on a step-aside rule, you should not be able to participate. And the first issue, really, before you consider participation, will be to deal with the step-aside rule itself, because that becomes a stumbling block. So there's nothing new in this matter.
Just also for the viewers and for those who don't know how the electoral processes are going to take place, please just, let us know. I know there is going to be the nomination of the top 6. Is it still going to be in order of voting for the president, then the chairperson and the treasurer general, and then coming back and voting for the deputy president and the deputy secretary general? Just please clarify that for us.
No, I think initially we had 3 sessions where for the officials you're going to...
3 ballots.
Yeah, 3 ballots where for the officials there were 2 ballots. We had a discussion with the provincial secretaries who indicated that delegates will want more time to be spent in commissions. And we find that very reasonable. So as such, we have then collectively decided that there's going to be 1 ballot for the top 6 officials and 1 for the NEC additional members. Yeah.
So the nominations are going to take place later today? Because remember, there are delays in conference.
Yes, we still believe that later today, we should be able to get to a situation where the nominations from the floors can also be entertained by the conference.
And remember, for those who will be nominated from the floor, they need 25%.
Yes, they need 25% votes from the total number of branch delegates at conference. That is very, very important. If you don't achieve that, then they can't be considered for the ballot.
So so today is going to be nominations. When will be delegates voting, and when will those results be announced?
The voting will start tomorrow with the top 6 officials. And then we'll probably do the counting much later in the day. So we think that on Sunday morning we should be releasing the results of the top 6 officials. On the same date, on Sunday, the voting for the additional top 80 will then also be happening. So it's quite a congested program of voting and announcements of results. And what we're going to do is that, you remember, we've got 4,500 voting delegates. So we have to process them at the voting station there. We have a center there that is now fully fledged and ready to operate. We think that will take about 900 delegates per hour, which means the voting session per each ballot will take about 4 hours in total. Then the counting will begin.
Are you not worried that more time will be spent with electing, with voting, with nominating, rather than actually discussing the policies of the ANC?
You see, the voting is quite a very important process in the conference, because that's when you want leadership. The policies, you can deal with them here, but remember there are also general councils at the province and at national to also deal with policy matters. So any matters of policy nature that are outstanding will then be dealt with at the general councils. So there is a space, but if you don't go out to this conference without the leadership of the ANC, then we are in trouble. So it's important that we nurse the voting process and we don't compromise it, and we give it enough time.
Talking about nursing the voting process, I know you can't preempt how the voting process is going to be, but do we expect a smooth voting process?
Yes, if you look at the decorum that is here among the delegates, it's calm. This calmness, would probably, be the same throughout the process. So when we go there to voting, the rules there are very, very strict. You can't go in with your cell phone. You go through a searching station where you are thoroughly searched, and you are not allowed to talk to anybody whilst you are in the queue. So it's a very strict environment, which I think will then yield credible results. But they will take our time to make sure that everything happens in order.
The Electoral Committee was set up and was put in place to do away with, the notion of vote buying, of slates. I mean, just leading up to, this process and leading up to this conference, the 55th conference. In terms of campaigning, did ANC members and those who were campaigning, did they actually come to you and actually declare their financial statements, perhaps?
Yes, we have a number of comrades, especially candidates for the top 6 positions, who have declared their financial statements. We continue to scrutinize them, but they will also have to update them, because they were declared during the nomination phase of the process. So now we are at the voting process. That disclosure is still important in terms of an update.
Have any discrepancies been picked up by the Electoral Committee where one was found wanting and found in wrongdoing? Were there any disciplinary measures that you meted out as the Electoral Committee?
No, for now there's nothing out of the ordinary, because the comrades are spending money on items that are allowed in terms of the rules, which will be your accommodation, your travel, and hiring of venues. But you can see that there is a limited or virtually no expenditure on items that are expensive, like T-shirts for candidates, posters on cars, posters on poles on the streets. So all of that was disallowed by the Electoral Committee, just to minimize the influence of money on the outcomes of elections like this.
But how would you actually detect, the process of vote buying, especially if it happens, if a person gives you cash? I could come, let's just, for example, I'm a delegate, I'm running for a certain position, I'm running my campaign, I give you hard cash. How will you have proof of that?
No, you see, the proof it will be by those who raise complaints. But we have said to comrades.
But have you had any complaints so far from ordinary delegates?
No, we have not had a complaint except one complaint that is still yet to be substantiated, which we received yesterday, that a candidate has booked separate accommodation for some branch members or delegates. And that accommodation is separate from that which was organized by the provinces. And we are saying to comrades, that is not allowed because, one, you are going to be disallowed or disqualified from participating in the conference, and you are also going to be subjected through the disciplinary processes of the ANC. But in the terms of that allegation, we are still waiting for proof. No name was mentioned, so we said bring the proof. As soon as we have it, we'll deal with it. So,
and you can't tell us who that candidate is?
No, because the name is not yet there either. So if we know, then we'll deal with the candidate first. If it's necessary to tell the public, we might have to do that, but we prefer to deal with those things internally. So those are the issues that, so now, the point I'm coming to is that if you buy votes, later on we find that you are not disclosing such expenditure. That is gross dishonesty and it leads to summary dismissal as an ANC member. So we don't want to reach that. So we always say to comrades, be honest, because we are not like the police department of the ANC. We rely on people being honest and others, reporting such issues when they come across them. And the most important issue is that sometimes comrades tell after a while, when these deals go sour, and then they reveal that I was given a bag and
But then what happens in that case? Let's just say next year in 2023, a certain person wins and, someone feels disgruntled and then reveals that, listen, but I was paid by this person, here's the proof. What then happens?
When that happens, the ANC is going to discipline that member because there will be proof. And once you are disciplined, it means you will be removed from the NEC position and probably be expelled from the ANC. That is how serious these kinds of issues are. So that's why we say to comrades, be honest, disclose everything. Let's not pay, this issue of people being bought food and alcohol, for instance, we said it's not allowed. Comrades, must not really stoop so low such that they accept alcohol and food to go and sell the conference of the ANC. But that message has been hammered through and through, and I think it's beginning to sink in.
Apart from the election, the nomination of delegates, discussions will also take place about strengthening the powers of the Electoral Committee.
Yes, indeed. Because this is the first time that such a committee is set up and the first time that the rules are set up, it's important to relook at some of the rules, and that process has begun in earnest. There are some of the rules that are contentious, like Rule 4.2.1. that talks about being criminally charged or found guilty in a court of law. It doesn't go to say, is it with or without a fine? Now it's refined to say, it includes whether you have a fine. There was
When was it refined?
It has been refined at the NEC meeting yesterday, and is going to be presented to conference.
So meaning Batabile Dlamini doesn't stand a chance then, because remember she had paid the 200,000 rand fine.
You got to wait until the conference to be able to answer that with a certain sense of confidence, because the conference can decide otherwise on the rules. So we'll present them there, and then we listen to the deliberations. Conference takes a resolution. Then we can then come to a final determination as to who really is excluded or not excluded.
Do you think the Electoral Committee did a good job in educating ordinary ANC members about the rules of the Electoral Committee? There was so much confusion, especially over these past 2 weeks, about the rules of the commission. Some even, of the committee. Some even have been accusing you of flouting your own rules.
No, I think what has happened, which is very good, is that we unearthed a lot of ignorance on rules. I've never seen comrades quoting the Constitution and the rules much more than this time. In the previous conferences, the Constitution was just like one of the documents. Now, to show that the rules are strong and our processes are well informed, you find that everybody keeps on referring to the Constitution. You have had the discussion about how the 4.2.1 rule is contrary to even Section 47 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, and also the another Rule 25 17.2 of the ANC Constitution. Those kinds of discussions show that our systems are located within the proper procedures of the African National Congress. And I think that gives a lot of credibility to our processes. So we believe that there is room for improvement, but given it's the first time I think we've done it, we hear the comments from the people. In many instances, when we go to the NEC, there are a few issues here and there, but overall, our reports have always been well received and approved by the National Executive Committee.
Okay, Chief Livhuwani Matsila, thank you so much for your time. Of course, Nzinga, that was the Secretary of the Electoral Committee, Mr. Chief Livhuwani Matsila, just explaining a number of processes in terms of the nominations, the elections of the various candidates, also saying that nominations will take place tomorrow, elections on Saturday, and hopefully announcement of those top 6 individuals in the NEC on Sunday. Nzinga also confirming there that that letter of disqualification has been sent to the suspended Secretary General, Ace Magashule, notifying him that he will not be allowed to stand for any position at this conference. With that said, it's back to you in studio.
Thanks very much, my colleague there, Natasha Phiri.